10 Sinister Girlfriend Horror Stories, Hidden Secrets Revealed That Haunted My Life for Years. Jake never thought his late-night pizza deliveries in the quaint suburb of Ohio could unearth the sinister depths of his seemingly perfect life. But that night, with shadows creeping along the silent streets and the moon casting its cold glow, he sensed something was terribly wrong. Emily, his girlfriend, always exuded warmth and affection, but a chill ran down Jake's spine. It started with whispers, a string of ominous texts that crawled under his skin, urging him to question everything he knew about her. Why do I even ignore that feeling? He thought as he skimmed past the missing children posters plastered on the telephone poles, their smiling faces twisting into haunting reflections of his thoughts. The unease swelled in his chest like a dark storm, tainting his mundane existence with dread. What if Emily had secrets that lay buried beneath her cheerful facade? What if her devotion masked something sinister? The delivery run felt different tonight, each ping of the GPS echoing like a taunt. He shook himself, pushing aside the unsettling thoughts, but then his phone buzzed again with a message from the unknown number. "She's not who you think," it said. Jake felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Heart racing, he drove on. Panic clawed at his mind, demanding he confront the growing darkness, but he couldn't bring himself to act. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, after yet another delivery, Emily suggested Jake dig through her old belongings. "You might find something fun," she giggled. Against his better judgment, he agreed. As he rummaged through her dusty box of old newspapers, his breath caught in his throat. The headlines screamed of disappearances, chilling accounts tied together by a thread that linked to her. Each article sent shockwaves through his body, unraveling the illusion of their life together. Panic rose in his chest, strangling him as the pieces clicked together. Emily wasn't just keeping secrets, she was a menace cloaked in innocence. His heart hammered as he recalled her distant behavior those nights she would stare off, lost in thought. What if she were part of something he couldn't fathom? Jake's mind swirled in terror, every noise a reminder of the reality closing in around him. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, he resolved to confront her, but uncertainty held him captive. His pulse quickened, dark thoughts swirling with each glance toward the door. An escape felt imminent yet impossible. When he finally faced her in the dimly lit room, shadows folded around them like a shroud. Emily's eyes glinted with a mix of playful mischief and something darker. Jake felt his heart drop. She was twisted stronger than he could comprehend, hiding behind a smile that felt more like a mask. The walls began to close in as he realized he was caught in a web of shadows. Would he become another lost soul in her story, or could he find a way to escape before darkness consumed him whole? As he stood frozen, questions echoed in his mind, pulling him deeper into the terror. What would she reveal? And, more terrifyingly, what could she take from him? Jake's heart raced as he stood there, a prisoner of his own fears. The air was thick with tension as Emily's gaze bore into him, a twisted smile playing at the corners of her mouth. He opened his mouth to speak, but only silence came out. It felt as if the shadows had grown teeth, ready to bite at any moment. "Jake, what's wrong?" Emily asked, tilting her head, feigning innocence. But he saw the flicker of something darker behind her eyes. It was as if she reveled in the chaos growing between them, her delight contrasting sharply with his dread. He finally managed to stutter out, "I know about the articles, Emily." The words fell from his lips like stones dropping in a well, echoes of past horrors reverberating around them. "You've been lying to me." Her expression shifted, the mask slipping just enough for him to glimpse the true nature beneath. "Lying? Who said anything about lying?" she asked, her voice dripping with honeyed menace. You've always been such a creative thinker, haven to you, Jake. You should really question what you believe, and who you believe it from. Every instinct in Jake screamed to run, to get as far from her as he could. But his feet felt glued to the floor, riveted by the truth that haunted him. Why? Why would you hide this? Are you involved in these disappearances? Each question slipped out with urgency, tainted by the fear swirling in his stomach. Why, Jake? Because I have to keep things interesting. Her laughter was a chilling symphony that echoed in the confined space. Do you have any idea how it feels to live in a perfect little bubble? Everything so predictable, so boring. The joy in her face contorted into an unsettling aggression, revealing her true self. But those people, Emily, they're gone. How can you treat this like a game? He demanded, particles of anger mixing with his fear. Unable to reconcile this side of her, she took a step closer, her eyes narrowing, shadows lengthening behind her. Oh, but they weren't just gone. They were part of the plan, Jake. Each one a beautiful puzzle piece. But now you're getting far too personal. Jake's mind whirled. He was drawn into her world, one he wished were just fiction. Was he next? Questions raced through his consciousness. He took a step back, and her lips twisted into a smirk, as if she could see the thoughts flashing across his face. Running away isn't an option anymore, she cooed, advancing toward him. Panic surged anew, pushing adrenaline through his body. He had to make a choice: fight or flee. Emily, he said, voice shaking, I know you're hiding something. I have to know the truth. With each word, he tried to anchor himself, hoping to probe her mind, to reach the woman he once knew. Truth? She spat, the sweetness draining from her voice. You think you want the truth? You think you can handle it? Her eyes darkened, as if mirrors reflecting an abyss. Suddenly, the lights flickered, the room shifted, and he was confronted with images flashing across the walls. Faces of the missing children, their screams muted by the horror, surrounded him. Jake stumbled backward, the weight of dread pulling him down, landing him face first onto the cold floor. As he scrambled to his feet, he caught her pondering him. Something shifted in her demeanor. The confidence morphed to something sharper, more dangerous. You're right on the verge of finding out. Will it lead you to freedom, or to a fate worse than death? Before he could comprehend it, the room darkened. The ominous weight of her presence filled the air, suffocating. Jake inhaled sharply, heart pounding like a wild drum. Could he confront her? Would he make it out alive? But as she stepped forward, the words hung in the silence between them. You think you can escape me? Just wait till you see what I truly am. In that moment, he realized the depth of the nightmare he had fallen into. Nothing was as it seemed, and somewhere within the confines of her mind, a darkness awaited him, eager to swallow him whole. With the shadows creeping closer, he heard a whisper, the game has just begun. Jake couldn't breathe. The darkness pressed in on him, wrapping its fingers around his throat, squeezing the breath from his lungs. Emily's laughter echoed, rising and falling like waves crashing against jagged rocks. There was no escaping her now. Where are you going, Jake? She taunted, her voice sweet with malice. We were just starting to have fun. He stumbled backward, trying to regain his composure, but the walls seemed to close in. The images of the children were gone, replaced by glimpses of Emily, her face twisted into expressions of delight as she tore through articles, pen in hand, circling names, making notes. Each image held a piece of her truth, a dark tapestry woven with secrets that screamed for attention. Stop! Jake shouted, feeling the desperation clawing at his mind. You don't have to do this. We can figure this out together. Emily's smirk only deepened, a serpent ready to strike. Figure it out? Oh, Jake, you are so naive. She advanced, each step echoing in the void. You're not part of my world. You're just an intruder, a guest at my little soiree. And all parties come to an end when the host is unhappy. His instincts kicked in. Fight or flight. He turned to flee, adrenaline surging through his veins. If he could just reach the door, the only way out. But the room shifted as he moved, elongating and twisting, making the exit seem further with each desperate step he took. Did you really think you could run away from the truth? She hissed, her voice a venomous whisper in the darkness. Suddenly the lights flickered again, blinding him momentarily. In that instant, he caught a glimpse of her wild hair framing her face, eyes wide with unrestrained mania. Let us see how well you can hide. She called out, and the tumult of shadows danced around her like loyal hounds, ready to obey her every command. Heart racing, Jake reached for the door handle, his hands slick with sweat. He gripped it tight, twisting with all his strength, only to find it locked. Panic surged through him like icy water. Emily! He shouted, desperate. Let me out. Why would I do that? She replied softly, stepping closer, an unsettling calm settling over her. You're just starting to understand the beauty of the game. You can't escape something that's entwined within you. It was the chill in her voice that went through him like a knife. Every inch of him screamed to get away. He was trapped, cornered by the very person he once trusted. The realization crashed down. This wasn't just about her. He had been unknowingly drawn into something horrific, something that felt too well planned to be mere coincidence. Emily, please, he tried again, his voice breaking. Just tell me what you want. You don't have to hurt anyone. Oh, my dear Jake, she said with mock sympathy. It's already too late for that. What's done is done. The pieces are already in motion. The shadows around him swirled violently, whispering secrets he couldn't grasp. The air crackled as an electric charge built, the atmosphere thick enough to slice with a knife. Jake could feel the walls reverberating with menace, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. Either you play or you suffer the consequences, she said, her tone shifting to something chillingly sweet. I suggest you start figuring it out, fast. Then, just as quickly, she zipped towards the door he couldn't escape through. He had no time to think, only to react, leaping backwards into the swirling darkness as she gripped the latch. With one swift motion, the lights went out completely. And in that suffocating blackness, silence wrapped around him like a cloak, heavy and smothering. He felt the corners of his sanity fraying, then came a sound soft, almost inaudible, but clear enough to freeze him in place. A giggle, high-pitched, childlike but twisted, vibrant with malice. Jake's heart lurched as the shadows pulled back, revealing something even darker lurking beneath, something that had been awakened by Emily's delight. Welcome to the fun, Jake, she sang, a cacophony of glee spilling from her lips. Let us truly see what you're made of. What if this wasn't just a game? What if it was a trap designed for him? His mind raced. What horrors awaited him in this unyielding darkness? As he took a shaky breath, a new dread settled in. What if the truth he feared uncovering wasn't merely about Emily, but about himself? Jake's breath hitched as the shadows curled closer. Each faint sound morphed into an echo, stretching endlessly into the darkness. He turned wildly, trying to grasp at the fading silhouettes swirling around him, searching for anything familiar, anything safe. The giggle, that sweet yet bone-chilling laughter, reverberated in his mind like an unwanted tune. Fun. What a terrible word, he muttered, feeling bile rise in his throat. The room wasn't just dark, it felt alive, pulsating with a heartbeat of its own, throbbing against Jake's panic. Playtime. Emily's voice chirped, stinging his ears. I hope you've come prepared, Jake. The real game is just beginning, and you have to catch up fast. He forced himself to think. He had to find a way out. But the twisted truth lingered in the back of his mind. What if Emily was right? What if he was bound to this nightmare as much as she was? Jake stumbled backward, colliding with a wall. The surface felt warm, like it was breathing alongside him. Sweat dripped into his eyes, blurring his vision as he clenched his fists. "Emily!" he called again, his fear erupting into anger. "You want to get away with this. I'll find a way to stop you." "Stop me?" she crooned mockingly. "Oh, Jake, you hardly understand. This isn't about stopping me. It's about unveiling the truth that's hidden in the darkest corners of your mind." A gut-wrenching dread coursed through him. What did she mean? He felt fragmented pieces of his memories swirling in the misty darkness, old fears creeping back to the surface. Faces he had tried to forget glimmered in the gloom, their eyes pleading, accusing. "Those children," he gasped, the name barely a whisper. "What did you do?" "Isn't that the burning question?" she taunted, her laughter mingling with sharp whispers. "What I did was just the start. You think you can run toward the light and pretend the dark doesn't own you? You've always been part of this shadow play. You just didn't want to see it. Stop it." Jake screamed, shaking his head in disbelief, but desperate curiosity gnawed at him. Fragments of haunted laughter, fleeting images of youthful mischief, and cries for help hovered near. His heart drummed painfully against his chest. "Let us play a game of memory then," she said, her voice now a hungry chant. "Find what you buried deep. It's time to uncover your truth. The deeper you dig, the clearer it gets and the less you may like what you find." A sudden rush of air swirled around him, pushing him against the wall. Everything spun wildly. Jake squeezed his eyes shut, mouth dry, heart pounding as memories flooded in skinned knees, broken promises, and shadows creeping through hallways. He didn't want to go there. Not again. When he opened his eyes, the darkness had shifted, ambers of light flickered in the corners, revealing forms distorted by the gloom. Wisps of laughter began to take shape. He could see them now, faces he had long ago buried, their eyes hollow and searching. "No! No!" he gasped, stepping back in horror. "Welcome back to the memories you thought you'd forgotten," Emily sang, growing nearer through the static surrounding him. "Now, let us see what lies beneath." Before he could shout, the ground shook, and the apparitions lunged forward, their mouths opening to scream a soundless shriek. Jake stumbled again, terror clenching at his throat. He could hear whispers merging into one chilling invitation, "Join us, Jake." As he spun around, the shadows sharpened toward him, coiling like snakes ready to strike. There was no escaping now. The very things he was trying to hide had come back to claim him. Just as the darkness pressed in, a shrill cry pierced through the fog, breaking the spell. "Jake! Run!" The voice shattered his paralysis, igniting a desperate instinct to flee as adrenaline surged anew. But was the voice real? Or yet another deception? "Run, Jake! Don't let her trap you." He hesitated, floodlights of doubt illuminating the edges of fear. Who was this new presence? And could he trust it? With the shadows looming ever closer and Emily's laughter fading into manic fury, Jake made a choice. He dashed through the darkened path, but his heart raced louder than the echoes. As he sprinted forward, the question hung heavy in the air: would he awaken the horrors of his past, or find a way to escape? The escape might bring relief. Or it could pull him into deeper madness. The moment Jake bolted, the air around him thickened, wrapping tightly like a noose. He pushed himself onward, heart pounding in a chaotic rhythm, muscles straining against the terror echoing in his mind. That voice, whose was it? A whisper of hope or a siren-esque call? His feet pounded against an unseen floor, each step a desperate plea for escape. The shadows lurked just out of sight, clawing at his heels, but he dared not look back. He hurtled past distorted walls, their surfaces flickering with scenes of his past like a broken projector, an ache of guilt and regret creeping in. "Keep running." The voice urged again, heavy with urgency. Cueing him to focus, he reached deep within, fueled by a primal instinct for survival. Then, without warning, the ground gave way beneath him. Jake stumbled, falling through a sudden opening, and with a gut-wrenching thud, he landed in a dimly lit basement. The chill sank into his bones, the air heavy with memories long suppressed. His breath turned shallow as he scrambled to his feet. All around, old toys lay scattered, relics of innocence stolen, dust built up like years of silence. A cracked mirror hung on the wall, its surface reflecting not just his face but flashes of laughter, games, and missed signals that flashed on loop. "That's right, Jake." Emily's voice slithered through the dark, wrapping around him like a serpent. "You've come home to play." He turned, eyes wild, breath quickening. "What do you want from me?" he gasped, fists clenched. The room spun with memories, shadows flickered with light and dark, teasing him between the veil of reality and madness. "I want you to remember. You have to see the whole picture," she sang, her tone sweet yet deadly. "Let them in, Jake. Let them show you who you really are." A sudden chill touched his skin, the once invisible figures from the darkness emerging in a half-formed wisp. Children, he realized, faces familiar yet twisted, eyes hollow, mouths moving in silent mouths of a forgotten song. They even wore remnants of the clothes he once saw them in, their forms flickering in and out like dying fireflies. Jake staggered back, dread pooling in his stomach. You can't do this." His voice trembled, but deep down, uncertainty gnawed at him. Were they really lost souls or just figments of his fractured psyche? "Do you remember their names?" Emily's voice hissed, insistent, as the shadows reached for him. "Can't you see? Their laughter still echoes in this place." Tears of frustration pricked at the corners of his eyes. Forgotten, yes. Abandoned, possibly. But deep down, he knew he had a choice to make. These memories could consume him, but maybe, just maybe, he could harness them. He fought against the rising tide of emotions. "I want to let you take me," he shouted, feeling a surge of defiance. Gritting his teeth, he began to remember waking up, laughter in the halls, the warmth of friendship and the accidents that had stitched the seams of his guilt. As he accepted the memories, the laughter morphed a melody both beautiful and painful. The children swirled around him, becoming more tangible as their grief mingled with his. "You owe them, Jake," Emily urged softly, now a whisper in his ear, urging him into the depths of his own reckoning. "Let us play, but the stakes are higher this time." Jake's heart raced. He faced a door at the far end of the room, an exit shrouded in darkness but pulsing with the promise of truth. Now, it was time for confrontation. Would he unlock the secrets entwined in the echoes of the past, or would he remain lost among shadows forever? As he clasped the doorknob, a cry erupted behind him, shattering the spell: "You cannot escape the light. Embrace it." And just as Jake twisted the handle, the ground heaved violently underneath. The walls closed in. What awaited him on the other side? And could he handle what had been hidden there all along? The door swung open with a creak that echoed through the basement like a death knell. Jake steadied himself, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Beyond the threshold was a corridor bathed in a sickly green light that pulsed eerily. The walls shimmered, alive with shadows that flickered and danced, taunting him to step inside. "Keep going, Jake." Emily's voice echoed from behind him, breathy and filled with expectation. It danced on the air like a lure, promising clarity just a step further. But dread coiled in his gut, squeezing silently, warning him. He took a tentative step inside, the floorboards groaning underfoot like lost souls crying out. An overwhelming sense of familiarity brushed against his mind, but he couldn't place it. As he ventured deeper, the corridor twisted and turned, stretching endlessly ahead. The walls began to close in, suffocating him with the past he'd tried so hard to forget. "My friends," he whispered to himself, memories breaking like waves. Jake reached a door on his left, one adorned with childish drawings. A crayon monster with jagged teeth grinned back at him. For a brief moment, warmth filled him. A fragment of laughter floated faintly in the air, but then, an icy breath cascaded down his back, dousing the flickers of nostalgia like a flame snuffed out. He turned sharply. The children's faces loomed closer in the dark behind him, eyes wide and pleading, mouths moving in mutinous silence. "Don't leave us!" they chorused, their voices rising like a storm. The room swirled, visions crashing through his mind, time spent together, whispers in dark corners, their joyous screams turned to despair. "No, no!" he shouted back, hands gripped tight to his temples. "This can't be real. Isn't it?" Emily's voice slithered into his ear again, soft as velvet yet laced with the sharpness of a blade. "You're the one who turned away. You shut them out, Jake. You thought you could run from your sin." He felt their presence more strongly now, a wave of anguish pushing him. Should he confront the memories? Or would doing so merely drag him deeper into this nightmare? Each inhalation became a struggle against the weight of the truth. He advanced to the next door, heart pounding violently. He grasped the handle but hesitated, a visceral instinct screaming at him to stop. What if this led to something worse? Then he heard a soft giggle, high and tinkling like glass shattering. It came from within. He opened the door, heart racing. Inside was a room filled with shifting shadows, a dilapidated playroom. Laughter reverberated off the walls, but it was cold, a sound born of past joy twisted into something off-kilter. Torn stuffed animals lay scattered, their button eyes dull, remnants of what had once been. "Do you remember, Jake?" The laughter faded to silence. The children appeared, now standing together, faces devoid of life, mouth shapes forming silent screams. In the corner, something lay covered with a dirty, worn blanket. Jake hesitated but found himself moving closer against his will. As he pulled the tattered cloth away, fear ripped through him. There lay a box with his name etched into the wood. The air around him crackled with unease. He recognized it. It was the box where he buried his deepest regrets. With a trembling hand, he lifted the lid. Inside, time froze. The memories surged forth, images flashed, swirling faces, laughter, and horror entwined. Each reverberate heartbeat was a countdown, each moment pulling him deeper into the abyss. "What have you done?" Emily's voice rose, a mixture of accusation and sorrow. The shadows closed around him, pressing tighter. He felt himself slipping, mind spiraling as the truth clawed at him, begging for forgiveness. Would he finally accept the burden of their memories, or would fear pull him under forever? As he fell into the maw of the box, Jake's last thought echoed like a restless haunting: what happens when you open Pandora's box? And as the darkness engulfed him, a single whisper rang out, cutting through the void: "This is just the beginning." The darkness was thick, smothering Jake in a silence that pressed down on him, as if trying to smother his very being. He felt like he was floating, suspended in a void where thoughts raced but sound was muffled, like wading through syrup. Panic squeezed at his throat when he remembered he had opened the box. What lay ahead? Memories? Demons? He could feel them gnawing at him, clawing to break free. He opened his eyes, but nothing registered. There were no walls, no floors, just a vast, endless black. Then he heard it, a faint whisper, echoing in the vastness, more felt than heard. "You can't run from us, Jake, shut up." He screamed into the void, but it only mocked him, laughter melding with the whispers, swirling around him until they burrowed deep into his skull. Tendrils of dread wrapped around his spine, squeezing tighter, images flooded back. Children playing hide and seek. Their laughter was bright beneath the sun, pure joy. But then it twisted, shadow overtaking light. He recalled that day, their last day together. The day everything changed. A sinking sensation filled his chest like lead. "Make it stop," he begged. "I didn't mean to." The laughter crescendoed until it was a roar. Shadows began to erupt from the darkness, swirling forms rising and twisting into grotesque shapes that danced along his peripheral vision. And with each flash of light and shadow, their faces emerged familiar but now hollowed, eyes wide and staring, mouths agape in silent screams that resonated through his very soul. "Remember us, Jake?" A tiny voice, once sweet and innocent, now a rasping echo. "You forgot you left us to die." "No. I didn't you?" They advanced, their forms coalescing until he could nearly touch them. "Was the fear too much? Is that why you ran?" He stumbled backward, his heart hammering against his ribs as he fell. The floor was cold, hard. Jake was back in the playroom, gasping for air, vision blurred. The box lay before him, lid wide open, mocking him. There it was, a photo. A candid snapshot of smiling faces. His friends. No. Not just friends. The children he had loved. The day the accident happened, a fleeting moment of joy before everything shattered. "Look closer," Emily's voice slithered into his consciousness again, seductive and dangerous. He reached out, trembling fingers brushing against the photo. An overwhelming dread pulsed through him. With another breath, it transformed. Blood seeped from the edges, and he gasped at the sight of punctured smiles, eyes now black voids. The laughter twisted painfully, morphing into cries for help, a cacophony of despair that cracked Jake's already splintered mind. "No! What the hell?" He recoiled, vision narrowing down the corridor. But then, behind the children, shadows shifted. A larger figure flickered, a shadow with a shape that was all too familiar. It stepped forward, the light catching its features. "You thought you could forget?" It hissed, mouth stretching impossibly wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. Jake screamed, but it was swallowed by the darkness, outrage echoing into an abyss. As the figure inched closer, pulsating with a dark energy, he felt the floor beneath him start to dissolve. "Join us, Jake. We waited for you." Desperation clawed at him, adrenaline replaced with sheer terror. He had to escape, but the shadows tightened their grip. With adrenaline spiking, Jake lunged for the door at the far end of the room. He could hear their laughter chasing him, spiraling faster and faster, filling his ears with madness. "Run!" He shouted at himself, but with each step, the darkness swallowed any hope of escape. The door loomed ahead, a shrouded silhouette. Would it lead to freedom or simply more nightmares? As he flung the door open, an even deeper void stared back at him. He hesitated. What awaited him on the other side? Why go on? A whisper taunted him. "You'll never escape." His heart raced, doubt creeping in like smoke. What if the question hung in the air, each heartbeat echoing louder? He could feel the shadows close in around him, ready to claim their own. And then he leapt. Through the doorway, propelled by sheer instinct. What lay on the other side? Hope or eternal night? The terror of the unknown swallowed him whole. Jake stumbled forward, gasping for breath as his heart raced uncontrollably. The void expanded, swallowing him in a wave of stifling air that felt heavier than before. The darkness wrapped around him, tightening its grip like a vice. He blinked, searching for anything tangible, but all he found was a disorienting whirl of shadows and whispers. They grew louder, festering in his ears like a swarm of angry wasps. "You can never escape," they taunted. "You brought us here, you have to pay." No. Not again. Not this. The faces he had seen moments before twisted and ghastly burned into his mind. They were too real. He could almost feel their cold, clammy hands reaching out for him. Jake's instinct screamed at him to flee, to find a way back to his world, his life. But where was he? He turned around, trying to grasp the edges of his surroundings, yet it felt like an endless expanse of nothingness, a boundless pit spiraling into madness. "Please, just let me go," he shouted, feeling utterly helpless. His voice cracked as the shadows melted and swirled, whispering reassurances that made his skin crawl. "You're one of us now." Suddenly, a flicker of light pierced the pitch-black gloom. It danced in and out of focus, illuminating fleeting images of innocence, a garden filled with flowers, bright blue skies, and laughter echoing through the air like a sweet melody. But the light dimmed as quickly as it appeared, and panic surged back. There was no reprieve. He turned towards what felt like an exit, sprinting into the fading glow, but as he ran, the shadows clawed at his ankles, wrapping tighter with each hurried step. Jake, a voice slithered through the air, familiar yet twisted. It was Emily, her image forming as a silhouette against the black. You left us, and now it's time to pay the price. He froze. No. I didn't, he liar. The shadows surged forward, morphing into a chaotic mass with shrieking faces, a gallery of terror contorted in pain. With no other option, Jake dashed toward the light, desperation giving him momentum. The cries echoed behind him, drowning his thoughts, but he could still hear them clearly. We need you, Jake. Come back to us. The brighter zone dwindled as he drew closer. He felt weightless, the light trying to pull him in. But he hesitated, glancing back. The figures behind him transformed into grotesque versions of his childhood friends, twisted in eternal agony, suspended in midair like marionettes strung by invisible threads. Stay with us. They cried, an unbearable symphony of dread that pierced his heart. For a moment, only seconds, he gripped the light's edge. Then Jake plunged into it, and the world imploded around him. He landed hard on a cold, concrete surface, the air rushed from his lungs as if he'd been punched in the gut. He rolled onto his back, gasping, trying to adjust to the bright overhead lights too stark after the past darkness. Disoriented, he pushed himself to his feet, shaking off the remnants of his fall. Where was he now? An empty hallway stretched on, lined with peeling walls and flickering lights. His breath quickened, nausea pooling in his stomach. It felt all too familiar. Images surged back, lost days, abandoned laughter, his every regret clawing at him. Was this the real world? He stared down the corridor, hearing echoes reverberate back, faint but chilling. You thought you could escape. Before he could process the weight of it all, he noticed something glinting on the floor ahead. He crept closer, fear thrumming in his veins. It was another box. Identical to the one he thought he had left behind. But it was different, somehow warmer, pulsing with energy that felt alive. As he reached for it, the whisper returned, sultry and sinister. Open it, Jake, let us in. His fingers hovered above the lid, heart thumping wildly in his chest. Would it answer his questions, or would it unleash another wave of horrors? What secrets lay hidden within this box? Just as uncertainty flooded his mind, he heard laughter behind him, cold and accusatory. Don't you want to know? Tension coiled tighter, and he froze. The darkness wasn't done with him yet. Could he really handle the truth? Jake's heart raced as the laughter echoed in his ears. He knew that voice, knew those sinister tones that warped familiarity into fear. He turned slowly, trembling, to face the shadows again. But this time, he found himself standing before a vision that twisted his gut tighter than any horror he had ever known. Emily's figure flickered in and out of the dark, her eyes glinting like blackened marble set in a pale, haunting face. Curiosity always comes at a price, doesn't it? She taunted, mouth curling into a smirk that revealed the jagged edges of something not quite human. What do you want from me? Jake cried, his voice barely a whisper. She stepped forward, and with each movement, the dim light around her waned. You should know by now. You're the one who wanted to play. Behind her, shadows swirled like angry spirits, their whispers rising to a cacophony. The laughter grew louder, a maddening echo that filled the corridor, pressing in on him, suffocating him. Jake took a step back, the box forgotten at his feet. I just want to leave. He shouted, panic surging. But the way back seemed infinitesimal now. Leave? No one leaves here, Jake. Emily's voice softened, almost a whisper. You think you can escape the choices you made? The friends you abandoned? We are part of you and you are part of us. As she spoke, the walls pulsed around him, a heartbeat of despair that resonated through his veins. Memories clawed their way to the surface, each one a shackle dragging him deeper into this nightmare. No. He clenched his fists, droplets of sweat pooling at his brow. I can't face this. Face it? She laughed, a chilling sound that echoed off the concrete. You've already faced it. This place, it's a mirror, Jake. A reflection of your darkest secrets. As he turned back to the box, the atmosphere changed. Shadows slipped away, revealing blurred glimpses of his past moments he had tried desperately to forget. Friends laughing. Faces. Then one image froze in his mind, a little girl, alone in a hospital bed, crying for him. His younger self standing outside, trembling with fear. Jennifer, he murmured, and in an instant, the corridor shifted. Suddenly, he was no longer standing there. He found himself in a room filled with faint beeping sounds. He turned, and there she was, the little girl, frail and sick, tears in her eyes. Why didn't you come? Her voice was just above a whisper, yet cutting through him like a knife. Jake reached out for her, but she vanished, turning back into swirling shadows. You ran away, Jake, came Emily's voice, now layered with the echo of Jennifer's plea. You left us for your own selfish desires. No, he started, but the words caught in his throat. His denial felt futile as reality twisted around him. The shadows shifted again, forming grotesque silhouettes of his friends' tormented souls reaching out, screaming for his attention, their faces marred by the agony he had ignored. Open the box, Jake. Emily commanded, her voice slicing through the chaos. Let us in. His hands shook as he knelt before the box, its heat thrumming with life, tempting him, seducing him with the promise of understanding. Would unveiling its secrets bring him peace or plunge him deeper into madness? Just as he opened the lid, a howling wind swept through the corridor, chaos reigning as shadows surged forward. A scream of despair ripped through Jake, tangled in the sound of distant wails that clawed at his sanity. What have you done? Came a whisper. The box burst open, and a blinding flash scattered the darkness momentarily. And in that blink, a cold voice echoed in his mind. You think this is the end? This is just the beginning. His blood ran cold as he realized the horror that awaited him. What terrible truths would he unearth next? Jake felt the tremors of dread coursing through his veins, overwhelming him. The box lay open at his feet, a portal to the murky depths of his past, shimmering with both despair and longing. As the shadows whirled around him, he could hear the whispers more clearly now, echoes of the children, their laughter twisting into tears. You left us behind. It clawed at his conscience, pulling him back to the day he had buried the weight of his mistakes. Stop. No. He shouted into the void, clenching his fists. But his voice was swallowed by the cacophony of despair and accusation. He could see their faces in the swirling dark, children he had once cared for, their joy tainted by his inaction. Jennifer, their innocent laughter replaced by heart-wrenching cries, hovered just beyond his reach. Each heartbeat reminded him of their absence, their memories entwined with the horrors that shadowed him. Open it, Jake. Emily's voice cut through the chaos like a knife, commanding him with its authority. Only then can you understand. Trembling, Jake leaned closer, staring into the swirling depths of the box. Memories surged forth, faces flickering like phantoms, whispers pressed against his skin, disentangling knots of regret. Jennifer's clear blue eyes pierced through the gloom, and he felt a tightness in his throat. Please, let me in. Let me see the truth. He begged, tears pooling as he fought against the tide of darkness. You've already seen it, came Emily's haunting whisper. Shadows danced in a frenzy, engulfing him with their tangled tails. The truth is a heavy burden, Jake. Are you ready to carry it? With every ounce of will, he dove deep into the box, plunging into the memories that had haunted him. He saw her. Jennifer, lying frail in the hospital bed, her tiny hand weakly reaching for him, pleading. He remembered it all, her laughter that once echoed in the hallways of innocence now drowned in regret. A crushing realization coursed through him. He had chosen to run away instead of facing the sorrow. "Jake, face your fears," whispered a chorus of voices, dripping with bitterness and loss. "You must own them. You can't hide anymore." The air thickened, wrapping around him, binding him to the moment. Fury ignited within him. "I didn't mean to abandon you," he screamed into the darkness, his voice trembling with the weight of his words. "I thought I was protecting myself." "Protecting yourself?" Emily's laughter rang through the shadows, chilling him to the core. "You thought running away would erase the memories? You think turning your back made it go away?" The shadows pulsed, turning viciously, revealing scenes of laughter and life lost beneath the surface. He saw the joy he had buried, teenage summers, laughter in the air, friendships built on trust, all tainted by betrayal and fear. Faces of those he once held close hovered over him, twisted by his choices like a reflection of his guilt. "I won't lose you again," Jake exclaimed, his heart pounding like a war drum. In an act of sheer defiance, he faced the swirling darkness, drawing upon the remnants of love buried deep inside him. "I refuse to be a prisoner of my past." With that declaration, he tore his gaze from the shadows, focusing instead on Jennifer's face, the image clear in his mind. She deserved better, a chance to transcend the horrors he had painted them with. Jake squeezed his eyes shut, centering himself amid the turmoil. And it filled him, light, warmth, and love breaking through the suffocating dark. The shadows recoiled, flickering like leaves in a storm, their howls muted as the warmth spread like wildfire in the depths of his heart. "I remember you," he whispered, choking back tears, this time not of fear, but of hope. "I remember us." The words broke free of his lips, and he could feel the pressing darkness yield, retreating in surprise. The shadows dissipated, flickering like dying embers, retreating from the warmth of his revelation. The voices grew softer, fading into a gentle hum, transformed. Emily's figure shimmered like a mirage, shaking with a mix of fury and uncertainty. "You've disrupted the game, Jake," she snarled, "but it's not over yet. I'm done playing your games." He shouted back, a newfound strength coursing through him. "Everyone deserves to be remembered. I'm not afraid anymore." Jake turned resolutely toward the pathway illuminated by flickering light. With each step, he embraced the memories, the laughter of children, the love for friends long lost. They brought him clarity and the promise of redemption. As he crossed the threshold, colors exploded around him, a vibrant world reassembling from the shadows. The hallway flared to life with sunlit warmth, bursting into flowers and laughter. Each small step warded off the dark tendrils threatening to drag him back. He emerged into the light, a garden adorned with vibrant blooms, children's laughter cascading in the air. Every face smiled boldly at him, reminding him of a love that transcended fear. Jake looked around, heart swelling, as faces appeared, those once lost, reunited in this realm of play. "Jennifer!" he cried, and the little girl stepped forward, radiating joy. "There you are, Jake!" she exclaimed, her smile illuminating the world. "You came back for us. Back for them." As they embraced, he felt the weight lifting, joy suffusing every fragment of his being. The darkness had not defeated him, it had forged a bond between past and present. "I promise to never abandon you again," he vowed, surrounded by laughter, the shadows dissolving into the fresh air like fleeting nightmares. And as they stood together, facing the horizon, Jake whispered softly, "Let us create new memories without fear." The sun dipped below the horizon, signaling the end of a dark chapter and the dawn of a new beginning. The garden danced with possibility, alive with lively energy. The air shimmered with warmth and light, finally freeing him from the grip of despair. Jake could breathe again, and now, for you watching, this is the moment to show your support. If you want to dive deeper into more haunting stories that explore the shadows of human nature, subscribe immediately. so you don't miss the next exclusive tales that will grip you. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and let others discover these chilling narratives. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories about Jake's journey, and personal thoughts. I can't wait to hear from all of you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who you think need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's ride this wave of excitement together.